رمضان ده حياتي شمعة لمماتي، يا رب دعاتي تقبلها عطول. رمضان ده رحمة من ربنا، نعمة بيحل حياتنا ويفرشها ورود.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today inshallah we'll continue our last class. Today will be our last class before we close off for Ramadan. We'll continue with the second principle upon which fast is nullified. We mentioned there are two principles upon which the fast is nullified and invalidated. The last week we mentioned the first principle, wusul al-Mufti ila jawf al-badan, the reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body. The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body, and we mentioned what is a fast-breaking agent. All solids, all liquids, and all gases that has a perceptible body. Smoke, dust, semen dust, sawdust that is in the air. That is a fast-breaking agent that enters a cavity in the body. And the three cavities in the body, the throat, the stomach, and the intestine, all of which form the digestive tract, they are cavities of sequence that through a valid entry point. And the valid entry points to these cavities, the mouth, the nose, and the rectum. The mouth, the nose, and the rectum. And we mentioned, we cleared up what the misconception with regards to the air being a valid entry point. Right? The air is not a valid entry point, hence, if medicine were to be placed in the air, the fast would not be nullified. Why? Because there is no passage, direct passage from the outer air leading to the throat, unless the air is perforated, there's a hole in the air. And then we mentioned exemptions, exception to the rule. So, many exceptions we mentioned. And we did some of the Masail also. So today inshallah we'll speak about the second principle upon which fast is nullified. The first principle, most of the laws of fast, what nullifies the fast, we'll get into the first principle. Today we'll speak about the second principle, and we'll speak about kafara, what necessitates kafara, and what is kafara. So the second principle is al-jima' suratan aw ma'nan. Al-jima' suratan aw ma'nan, sexual intercourse or sexual satisfaction. And sometimes we have to be a little explicit so at least we know, right, what we are speaking about. Alright? What is either or would nullify the fast. And what is the first one? Al-jima' suratan. So we have to use what? Words the marital relation, but marital relation, right? Marital relation then, alright? But what is what? What does that mean? Alright? What does that mean? Understand the definition of that is the entrance, alright? The entrance of the male private part into the female private part to the extent that the head disappears. Everybody big here, right? So we don't need the entrance of the male private part into the female private part to the extent that the head disappears. Right? It's not a condition. What is not a condition? That what? The entire limb enters. And what is also not a condition? Ejaculation is not a condition. Once this occurs, this is considered to be what? Yani jima, intercourse. And this amount, when we speak about had and penalty for what? Zina and fornication, this is the minimum requirement. It's not a condition that what? Seminal fluids were emitted or the entire thing entered. No. To that extent, the minimum amount, it enters until what? The head disappears. Right? They cannot see the head anymore. That is the minimum amount. That fits the definition of jima. And with that now we have the laws pertaining to had, rajam, and what? And the darb. Right? Now, with regards to fasting, if this occurs, right? If this occurs, this minimum amount occurs, this is what? Al-jima' suratan wa ma'nan. This nullifies the fast. Alright? This nullifies the fast. Okay? Now we have what is called yani al-jima' ma'nan. Ma'nan means what? There's satisfaction, but not through the entrance of the male private part into the female private part. In simple terms, whenever what? If what? The man, he ejaculates, or the woman, she what? She experiences what? An orgasm without the entrance of the male private part into the female private part, that also will nullify the fast. Alright? That also will nullify the fast. Here we're not speaking about a wet dream. No, a wet dream doesn't nullify the fast. Alright? A person sleeps the day of Ramadan and he wakes up with a wet dream, that does not nullify the fast. We're speaking about physical contact. Alright? And we spoke last class also, if a person without any physical contact, what he starts what? Fascinating, imagining, right? And what? Because of that, seminal fluids was emitted without any physical contact by himself or anyone else, his fast is still valid. Right? So we're not speaking about that. We're speaking about a man has what? What he ejaculates without what? Without his private part entering into the female private part. That will nullify the fast. And the woman also, she experiences an orgasm that without what? The male private part entering the female private part, to that extent as we mentioned, that also will nullify the fast. Alright? So we don't want to dwell too much on this one, but at least what is understood. So we can conclude then, we can conclude by saying the invalidation of fast is based solely on two principles, right? Mentioned. So only in the presence of what? These two principles will we say the fast is nullified. Yes, we take the exemption, the exception into consideration. But when we say the fast is nullified, it must be what? One out of these two principles. Alright? The fast is nullified due to one out of these two principles, right? Taking what the exemptions into consideration. So if before we go to kafara, right? If we just, I don't know what number we reach on this. Anybody have any questions? Today's supposed to be exam. That is the last class. Supposed to have exam. Here come today? Oh, mashallah. Okay, good. You see, after what? Understanding two principles, all these things it come what? Very simple. If we didn't study the two principles, then what? Each and every one will have to what? Read it, and then you all have to just what? Memorize it. It break fast, it doesn't break fast. Why? Because what? The person said so. Break fast doesn't break. But after understanding the principle, you could just read, right? And you'd read this what? 100 masail. And you would know exactly why it nullifies the fast and why it doesn't what nullify the fast. Alright? Huh? Everybody have this, right? You know, yesterday, last class, it was distributed also. It's just the first handout wasn't distributed. As for the second and third handout, only the first one. Alright, okay, well, we have what? Printouts from the Jamia, inshallah, but that contains just about 80. Alright, inshallah, we'll probably get it. It's already printed. So all of these things, we'll go straight after, inshallah. Let's see about let's speak about kafara then. So once a fast is what nullified, there's qada. Once a fast is nullified, there is qada. Qadha is to make up for a fast. Qadha is to make up for a missed fast or a broken fast. Two things, a fast missed. For example, a person he didn't fast because of a valid reason. And we say a valid reason why, because a person will not leave out fast just like that, right? And if he does leave it out without a valid reason, he still has to make qadha. So a qadha is what? Qadha is what? If a fast was missed or broken for whatever reason, it is necessary that what a qadha be done. A qadha is to make up fast for that day, that missed fast or that broken fast. Alright, so every time a fast is what? Missed or broken, there is what? There is qadha. As for the fast being broken, at times, if a fast is broken, that it does not only necessitate a qadha, but a kafara also, right? A kafara. What is a kafara? Kafara is an atonement for having deliberately broken the fast of Ramadan, but in a specific manner, right? So all these things over here, it nullifies what we mentioned before. It nullifies the fast, and then if it nullifies the fast, there's qadha. Until now, we haven't mentioned anything that necessitates any kafara. Kafara is to fast 60 consecutive days, right? 60 consecutive days. And as we mentioned, if a person he misses any one of the days, 59 days he got, and the 60th day the fast was nullified. He has to start over, right? He has to start over. So 60 consecutive days. So a person, 60 consecutive days. He cannot fast for whatever reason. Understand? When we say he cannot fast, that is, he cannot fast at all. We're not speaking about, okay, I want to do kafara this year, or this month, but I cannot fast, right? According to a valid shari'i reason, he cannot fast. We're not speaking about that person cannot fast at all for his entire lifetime, again, right? Because of what? Old age, meaning what? He had a kafara before to do and he didn't do it. So because of old age or because of a chronic illness, he cannot fast, then what? He can do the second option. The second option is to feed 60 people, 2 meals, morning and evening, or he can give fidya, right? Fidya in the form of grains, or when we say grains, 1.6, some mention 1.75 kg of wheat, right? The same fidya, so the cut of it, that amount, right? He can give that or the monetary value. So if the person is, understand here, he does not have the option to either what? The option here is not what? Fast or feed or give fidya. No. If he cannot fast, right? Not if he doesn't want to fast, or fasting is hard and difficult. No, if he cannot fast, right, then he can resort to feeding or giving grains or its value. Alright? So now, what necessitates kafara? Alright? All of these things, for example, we go to those things that nullify, right? That nullifies the fast. For example, smoking. Smoking nullifies the fast. A person water slips down the throat accidentally while making wudu, that nullifies the fast. The usage of enema, right? That nullifies the fast because it goes through the rectum, and that is entry point to the intestine. So it will nullify the fast. A person he swallows his vomit, right? Whether he vomited intentionally or unintentionally, but he deliberately swallow down that vomit, that will nullify the fast. Alright? So if a person fasts these over here, these scenarios, the fast is nullified and he will have to do what? Qadha. But kafara will only be obligatory when there's what you call the perfect crime. Meaning the perfect crime, a person when we speak about the region of a fast breaking agent into the cavity of the body, all of that is actually the nullifiers of fast is actually eating and drinking, right? So eating and drinking, this is what this summarizes eating and drinking, right? So if a person were to eat something deliberately, right? He were to eat something deliberately that either nourishes the body, benefits the body, satisfies the body. If he were to do that deliberately, then that is kafara. Alright? there's kafara. For example, a person what? He eats a piece of stone, a piece of paper, a piece of plastic. Is the fast what? Nullified? The fast is nullified, so we understand that the reaching of a fast breaking agent into the cavity of the body, but that would not necessitate kafara. Why? Because this is not something that is normally eaten, right? You don't normally eat paper, you don't eat stone, you don't eat mud. If a person wants to eat a piece of wood, a piece of paper, a piece of plastic, yes, his fast will be nullified. Except that will not necessitate kafara. Right? It will not necessitate kafara. Yes, if he eats what? Something that is nourishing, or that gives benefit to the body, or satisfies the body in any way, right? That will nullify the fast. Not only nullify the fast, but it will necessitate kafara, right? So what we're looking at here, in kafara, there's what? That fast is what? Is broken. There's a suratan and ma'nan. Suratan meaning what? The entrance of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body, and you have ma'nan meaning also is what? Something that what brings benefit to the body, it nourishes the body, it satisfies the body. So if these two come together, you're going to get what? This is connected to the first principle. If these two come together, you're going to get kafara, right? So that person is what? He sips some water deliberately. Yes, that is what kafara. Right? He sips water, he drinks some water deliberately, right? Yes, that is kafara. That person will eat something what? Some food, right? That is what? Deliberately, right? That is kafara. Kafara is what? Qada plus kafara. So 60 days plus what? That one day you have to make up for. Alright? Now something is not normally eaten, even though it's food, sometimes considered to be despicable. For example, what we mentioned earlier, the last class, if a person has food stuff stuck between the teeth, right, from the break of dawn, and we mentioned if it is a chickpea or more, the size, it will nullify the fast. If it is less than a chickpea, it will not nullify the fast unless it is taken out of the mouth and re-entered and swallowed. Right? Say now it is a chickpea or more, right? And the person swallows it. Yes, the fast is nullified, except there is no kafara, right? Except there is no kafara. Why this is not like eating? Right? Yes, the fast is nullified because what? A foreign, a fast-breaking agent enters the cavity of the body, but kafara, right? Here now, this will not necessitate kafara, right? It will not necessitate kafara. Similarly, the jurors they mention, if a person, for example, yes, he sips water, he drinks water deliberately, intentionally, while fasting, qada kafara. But if a person were to sniff that water through his nose and it enters the throat, would the fast be nullified? Yes, the fast will be nullified, except what? That will not necessitate kafara. That will not necessitate kafara. A person don't eat like that. This is not, a person doesn't eat like that. But so there's no kafara, but there's what? The fast is nullified, and there's qada. Why? Because a fast-breaking agent enters one of the cavity, enter the throat. Alright? So the kafara is what? Something done intentionally. Right? A person what? Intentionally did something. Right? Knowing that he's fasted. Right? So he intentionally consumed something, intentionally ate or drank or had what? Marital relation. That would necessitate. Alright? That would necessitate any kafara. But if a person, right, for example, making wudu, understand that a person making wudu, right, he would not what? Purposely want that the water go down his throat. No one, that doesn't happen. But if a person is making wudu and some water accidentally enters the throat, goes down to the throat, yes, the fast is nullified, and that would necessitate any kafara. That's what? The fast is nullified, and that would only necessitate any qada, no kafara. Right? Qada, no kafara. Alright? But listen to something here, right? For the smart man and them, right? Understand, there's no loophole in the Sharia. For example, if a person, right? If a person, If a person, his fast is broken for whatever reason, we mentioned previously that he must abstain from the nullifiers of fast, the muftirat, right? These fast breaking agents until sunset. A person cannot say that, you know what, my fast already broken, right? So I can eat and drink until I can eat and drink. Because my fast already broken and I have to make cover. He cannot do that. That is not permissible. Right? But if he were to do it, right? If he were to do it, understand his fast is already nullified, broken, right? And what he has to do, refrain from eating and drinking and marital relation until sunset and still make up for it. And it's not permissible for him to what? Right? To what? Eat and drink and, as we mentioned, until sunset. But if he were to do it, would there be kafara? No. There's no kafara. Understand? There's no kafara in that. Alright? The fuqaha, they also mention, listen, if a person what? For example, they take a nuts, right? And a person who were to eat it deliberately in the month of Ramadan, alright? The fast will be nullified, qada plus kafara. That is food, right? And he took it like how a person would normally eat, right? But they mentioned if that person that throw it up in the sky and open his mouth, right? And it will go straight down to his throat like that. He just throws it up like that and open his mouth and it goes straight into his throat. Yes, it will nullify, but no kafara, right? Taking that into, like a person don't eat like that, right? This is not, he doesn't eat like that. But yes, the fast will be nullified. Why? Because a fast breaking agent enters the cavity, right? But taking all that into consideration, right? The fuqaha, the jurists, they mention, listen, if a person, right? If a person intentionally, right? Intentionally broke his fast in any of these methods over here, right? Any of these methods that does not what? Necessitate kafara, but his intent was to deliberately break the fast, right? His intent was to deliberately break the fast, right? Kafara will be obligatory. Here, all we speak so far about that person what he accidentally did something like that, right? So even though it was done accidentally, mistakenly, okay, carelessly. When I say carelessly, listen, he it could happen, or it could. It could go down his throat, be such chances, whatever, accidentally, mistakenly, however, right, the fast is nullified, right? But if a person, through any of these methods over here, right, for example, he sniffs water through his nose with the intent of what? Breaking the fast, right? With the intent of breaking the fast, right? Or a person he throws that up in the air, right, and for it to go down his throat with the intent of breaking his fast. Any of these things done deliberately, right? With the intent of breaking the fast, then kafara is obligatory. Right? Then kafara is obligatory. So how would the smart man would think now? You think, listen, if I sniff some water through my nose, right, the fast is nullified. He doesn't mind making up one day. So if the ruling is what? If the fast is broken, you have to refrain from eating and drinking until sunset. But if you want to eat, there's no kafara. Right? So he deliberately breaks his fast with that intention. Right? Either what? Deliberately break the fast with the intent of breaking fast. And if that is also coupled with the intention to eat afterwards, right? That person, he will have to do kafara. Right? He will have to do kafara. Kafara will be obligatory upon that person. Now, with regards to smoking, right? So this will vary from person to person. We mentioned earlier that what? A person when he takes something, he consumes something that nourishes the body, medicates the body, benefits the body, and like that brings pleasure to the body. Right? So what if that person he smokes a cigarette? We mentioned early on, if he were to smoke, his fast is nullified, right? Because it enters the throat. It doesn't go to the stomach, right? It enters the throat, right? So the fast is nullified. So the question here now, is kafara obligatory also. We understand fast nullified and he has to do a qadha. But does it also have to do kafara? So here now, if that, it depends on the smoker now, right? So we're going to classify the smokers. If it's, listen, a casual smoker, when I say a casual smoker, he smokes now and then, right, for what, probably recreational purposes, whatever. But if it's a nicotine-dependent smoker, right, for him what it does, it satisfies the body. Listen, we have construction going on in the masjid these days. Sometimes you see, listen, the man are eating, the workers not eating, but one smoke, that is lunch, right, and next smoke, that is what? So that what, it satisfies the body. A type of smoker like that, right? So if that nicotine, that cigarette, it satisfies the body, right? It satisfies the body, then for that person, kafara is obligatory, right? So that person has what? A nicotine or dependency, and if you were to use that, listen, you skip a whole meal, right? That replaces a meal for that person. So for that person, that type of person, if he were to smoke, then yes, his fast would be nullified and kafara also would be obligatory. When we speak about kafara, we speak about the fast of Ramadan only. What does that mean? It means that if a person with a fast other than the fast of Ramadan, any other fast other than Ramadan, and he intentionally what? Breaks his fast, eats, drinks, or what? Has marital relation, intentionally knowing that he is fasted, his fast is what? Nullified, except there is no kafara. Kafara is specific to the fast of Ramadan. Right? Kafara is specific to the fast of Ramadan. Right? And there are a few exemptions also, because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, idra'u al-hudud wal-kafara bil-shubuhat. For example, a person, a musafir, it is mentioned in the Quran that a traveler is given allowance, right, to delay the fast. But we mentioned earlier that that allowance is given, you look at the time of the break of dawn. At the break of dawn, is he a traveler or not? Is he a musafir or not? Not that, okay, he's going to travel 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. No, he still has to fast. We look and see now at the break of dawn, is he a traveler or not? If he is not a traveler, he is not given that concession. He has to fast. Right? So say that same person now, he what? He didn't fast, or that same person what? Fasted, and then afterwards when he became a traveler, he deliberately broke his fast. Right? So because of this little shubha, right? Because of that, there's no kafara. Why? Because the ayah mentioned any safar, a personal journey. Right? So because of this little what? This what? Little what technicality over here, yes, his fast will be nullified except there is no kafara. Right? Because a person may think that, listen, the ayah mentioned a traveler, and I'm a traveler, so I'm allowed to do that. Right? Similarly, if a person he thinks that, listen, if he eats forgetfully, he thinks that his fast is nullified. And then afterwards he went and he ate deliberately. There's no kafara because of that jahal and that ignorance. He doesn't know. Right? But we know the ruling is that, well, listen, if a person what eats forgetfully, his fast is still valid. But this person, he thinks now, right? This we're talking about a person doesn't know. He thinks now if he already ate something that my fast is broken, so he went and he ate deliberately afterwards. Right? For that person, there's only what? Qadha, and there's no kafara. Alright? Also, if a person with kafara, a person, he must have intention before the break of dawn to fast. And understand this whole thing with intention. Listen, we always have intention. The moment we break we fast, right? We have intention to fast the next day. After Tarawih, perform Tarawih in the night time, yes, we have intention to fast the next day. When we get up in the morning, our intention is to fast the next day, right? So just if for whatever reason a person, he didn't have intention to fast. He made intention not to fast, which is wrong without a valid reason, right? But he made intention not to fast, and that person what? He ate deliberately the other day. right? When he made intention not to fast that day, he had no valid reason, but he made intention not to fast. If he were to eat, then what? Only qada would be necessary, no kafara, right? Only qada would be necessary and no kafara. Right?
You mentioned for fast outside of Ramadan, not the fast of Ramadan, no kafara is required if the fast is broken. But is qada required if you intentionally break a sunnah fast?
Yes. Sunnah fast or even a nafil fast. Right? Qada becomes wajib. For example, the same thing with any nafil salah. A person, right, he doesn't have to perform nafil salah in the sense that if he doesn't perform it, he's not sinful, right? If he performs it, right, the moment he starts, it is obligatory upon him to complete it. Like now, you don't have to perform salah now, you don't have to perform turakah now. If you perform it now, yes, it is what? You'll get rewards. You don't perform it, there's no sin. But the moment that person says what Allahu Akbar, he must complete that salah. He can't say Allahu Akbar and after it becomes salah, deserve that salah. No. If that happens, it is obligatory upon him to do qada of that salah. Whether what? The salah was nullified what? By his own action deliberately or not deliberately, that he passed or whatever, it becomes obligatory upon that person to do qada of that nafil salah. Similarly, a person with a fast, right? Nafil fast. Right? Yes, the hadith mentioned a person can break his fast if it's somebody for a valid reason, right? He can break his fast if it's a nafil fast, right? Even when the ulama they mentioned a person qualified for what? For food, right? A walima, this and that, and you're fasting, what that person is allowed to break his fast, right? But if he breaks his fast, it is obligatory upon him to do qada, right? He must make up for that. Right? And also for what? The exception here, the exception from kafara, a person because of necessity, for example, he is fasting in the month of Ramadan, and because of what? Dire thirst or hunger, he eats what? Deliberately. Right? He eats deliberately, yes, qada will be obligatory upon him, but no kafara. Right? There's no kafara there. Right, so that is what? Qada and kafara.
If somebody has like a strong headache, something like that, and they have to take a tablet, and they take the tablet, they eat some food and things, and then stop after that.
We understand the tablet is for the headache when the food is hot.
Headache to the headache.
So last time we spoke about something in what? Unbearable, right? If a person what? He has a headache, right? You check and see, okay, what other thing that could be used to remove that headache, right? Take a cold shower or take a sleep, or right? So a person what? If that headache is unbearable, right? Is unbearable, and a person will know what is unbearable. What is okay, difficulty, understand? There must be difficulty in fasting. Here we're speaking about okay, that unbearable and that cannot undergo something what persisted, right? And the only remedy for that is to take a tablet, right? But we have to know if that is the only remedy, right? If it is the only remedy and is unbearable, then what? That's different, right? That's different. But I don't think what? Panadol is the only remedy for a headache. Sorry? You take a shower, you pour water in your head, or pour water, all these what things people pour in their head. You check them out, people that have potion and thing for everything, all them things, right? So we can't say there's no substitute there's no other means of what, there's no other remedy, right? Yes, paracetamol is a quick remedy, but it's not the only remedy, right? Right, a little ruqya.
Understand a person which is fasting, who is fasting, they make a mistake and forgetfully and eat or drink something. That's alright, right? But this person, or let's say, after making wuzu, they are accustomed drinking water after making wuzu, right?
So you fasted, finish making wuzu, and just what you're accustomed to doing 3 more full of water. Consciously drinking that water, knowing you're going to drink the water, yet forgetting not drinking it, right? But not with the intention to break the fast. It's just because of previous habit.
Listen, a personal intention goes to a certain what? Right, a certain distance. Right? A personal intention, if I hear it has nothing to do with intention, what nullifies the fast? Right? Look at the principle what nullifies the fast. Wusul al-Mufti ila jawfil badan. The reaching of a fast-breaking agent into the cavity of the body. Here we didn't mention what, if he intended to break the fast or not. Right? So the moment of that, listen, when you fly, forget the fly then, that's what, unavoidable, something unavoidable, right? If what? You drinking water, not drinking water, you rinsing your mouth, you're gargling, right? You're not supposed to gargle anyhow, but you're rinsing your mouth, root one, somebody come and just, are you going by? And that water accidentally went down. Accidentally went down, right? Your fast nullified, right? Your fast nullified, or you're rinsing your mouth with the intention of what? Being very careful that the water doesn't what? Trickle down, and for whatever reason, the water just went down accidentally. Your fast nullified. You didn't intend to break the fast, right? But what happened over here? A fast-breaking agent entered what? The cavity of the body. So intention what? There doesn't have any role over here. So that person now, right? That person, well, he drinks the water knowing that he is fasting. After making wudu, this is his habit to drink water. We understand that. Month of Ramadan comes now, he makes wudu and his habit is to what? Drink water. So it could be that, listen, a person did that what? Unintentionally, right? When they say unintentionally, forgetfully then. Forgetting that he is fasting. Right? As we mentioned, you only see that what? You only say exemption here, so something done what? Forgetfully. And so mistakenly, accidentally, the fast is nullified. Alright? So if that person what? Drank that water forgetfully, what does that mean? What? He drank it forgetting that he is fasting, then the fast is still valid. Right? But if he drinks that water intentionally, knowing that he is fasting, then that is not only cover, that is what? Kafara. Right? That is kafara. And we spoke about kafara, listen. Kafara is like sajasa. What does that mean? It means that, listen, if a person is performing salah and he did about 3 or 4 actions, okay, more than one then, multiple actions, each of which will individually necessitate sajasahu, how much he has to make at the end? Just one. Right? Just one, and one will suffice all of what those mistakes made. Similarly, the kafara is the same, right? There's not okay if you deliberately do it today, right? Then tomorrow you deliberately do it again, and the third day you deliberately collects 1, 2, 3 kafara. No, that doesn't be one kafara, right?
So we say, in Ramadan, if we make this problem to do kafara 4 times in Ramadan.
Yeah, there's just one kafara, right? One kafara. That's like a sajasah, right? Understand? One kafara, except, understand here? Except that if a person, he completed a whole kafara, 60 days, then afterwards Ramadan came, next Ramadan came and he did what? That same action or our action that would normally necessitate kafara, then the past kafara would not what? Serve as an atonement for what? That fast that he broke. You understand? Listen. So long as the person didn't make a kafaras yet, all of these things, for example, he did it the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, deliberately, right? Until now he hasn't made kafara. So that one kafara would not suffice for all of this. Right? Yes, he will still be sinful for what deliberately breaking his fast. But this one kafara, 60 days, would suffice for all of that. Alright? But say he made the kafara now, and the next year come, next Ramadan, and he would willfully broke the fast in such a manner that would necessitate kafara. There's another kafara he has to make. Right? The one he made previously would not suffice for that. Yeah. And the last class we mentioned, right? One of what? One of my students, right? He was day 56 or 50 something, right? And he told me what? Right? He went swimming, right? In Tobago, in the waterfall, right? And water would accidentally enter his what? Throat. So what? His state now will start over. Alright, but you can't start now because you're going to be the month of Ramadan. Alright? You're going to be the month of Ramadan. Right? Understand it's not a what? It's not a penalty. Right? It's not a adab, it's not a punishment, but in that, here's what? Rewards also a person doing it and with the intention of doing it lillah, for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. It is what? Rewarding. I mean, this is a dars here, but the Hanafi madhab, in the Hanafi madhab, a person what? If he cannot fast, then he's allowed to what? Resort to feeding and what? Grains and giving the cash value, right? And that's what we do, right? The Maliki madhab, another madhab, right? Imam Malik and others, he's of the opinion that a person has a choice, right? Either what? He frees a slave, we don't have slave now, right? He frees a slave, or he fasts 60 days, or he gives what? He feeds the poor, right? Or, so a person mukhayyar, he has what? The option, right? But in the Hanafi madhab, you have to fast, if you could fast.
So, if we didn't know that, like, when we all, breaking fast, eating Ramadan, we didn't know what is kafara, like how we know it now. We had to make up for that now, it's long time.
So that's a good question, right? But listen, how much time you do it before? About 100 times, right? Right, 100 times. You ever did a kafara? No, so that one would suffice for all of that, right? If you do one, that would suffice for all of that. So,
That's $60
so you have the 40 days Jamaat, you stretch that 60 days Jamaat, and kafara Jamaat. We just eat it in the morning and evening. Alright? Now, does anybody have any question? Alright. So acts, we will just go down to this heading here. Actions that would necessitate qadha and kafara. Eating, drinking, while one is aware that he is fasting. Eating, drinking, mean that deliberately he's aware that he's fasting as well. Eating, drinking. Alright, marital relation, intercourse, and we mentioned what the minimum requirement is, what the entrance of that into that, to the extent that what the head is no longer visible. We spoke about any smoking and this and that. There's some other rules over here. We spoke about fidya, and we spoke about fidya in the first class, right? Alright, so only today, just today a person asked a question, okay, the wife is pregnant, what is the ruling then? She has to give fidya or not? And as I mentioned earlier, pregnancy and what, a woman being pregnant or nursing, that is not a reason to delay the fast. We mentioned that only if what she fears for herself or her child, only then she's allowed to delay the fast. If there's no fear, then what? She has to fast, right? She has to fast. And we mentioned the condition of what each woman, it differs. So she'll get what? Advice, medical, any expert advice from her doctor. Right? Yes, the moment that person is a musafir, a traveler, yes, he has that allowance. Whether he's healthy or not, the traveler is what, easy or difficult, doesn't matter. He has that allowance. Right? Not a pregnant woman and not a nursing woman. Right? So there's no what? He or she what? When I say he, the musafir, the traveler, right? Who's ever given allowance, there's no fidya. Right? Fidya, understand that fidya would only be paid by a person who cannot fast his entire life again. Right? He cannot fast again for his life. Only then that person will give fidya. right? But if a person, listen, he has some ailment, some illness, and the doctor said that after 5 years, that he should recover after 5 years, after 10 years. So there's no fidya. If he happens to give fidya, and then he recovers, that fidya would be what? Sadaqah. He would still have to do qadha for each fast. Right? He would still have to do qadha for each fast. So a person, for example, he has a chronic disease, right? He cannot fast his entire life. Or an old person that cannot fast because of old age. Every day he's getting older and weaker. Right? That person is not going to find better days, so he has to give fidya. So that person, what they should do, you can't give fidya up front. The month of Ramadan hasn't started, so that person cannot give fidya now. Yes, the moment the month starts, right, he can start giving his fidya. Whether he give it all at once, so every day he gives is up to him. Right? Give it to one person, it doesn't matter. Right? Few people, it doesn't matter. Right? Right, and just like we have what? Miss fast, not miss fast, miss salah, and we don't know how much miss salah we have, but in the past, okay, a person he start practicing about 5 years after he became baligh, right? And when he started practicing, he had the habit of leaving on this salah, that salah. So a person listen, he must estimate how much salah he missed. You have to estimate, right? Estimate how much salah that he missed, and he must do qadha for it, alright? He must do qadha for the missed salah, alright? The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that person that man nasiya an salatin aw nama anha qadaha idha dhakaraha, that was sallaha idha dhakaraha. That person, if he were to sleep away or he would forget to perform a salah or sleep away, then that person, the moment he remembers, then he should do qadha. Right? The moment he remembers, then he should do qadha. Right? And this is the view of all of the madhab. There's a view, and we mentioned earlier, a view of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. He is of the opinion, right, that listen, this hadith is pertaining to those who miss salah unintentionally, mistakenly, forgetfully. So this hadith is for them, they have to do qadha. Right? But for a person who would deliberately miss salah, then there is no qadha for him, he just has to tawbah. Right? And the view of the majority of the scholars know, if a person mistakenly did something, he is not sinful. Right? If he forgetfully did something, he's not sinful. Right? But despite that, he has to do qadha. So what about that person who deliberately left out salah? Then he has to do two things. He has to do qadha and tawbah also, not just tawbah. So similarly, fasting, a person didn't fast, whether it was done deliberately or mistakenly, he didn't know, right? Then that person, he has to do qadha. Make out a chart, listen, right? Every year, 30 days, right? And that person probably was in the habit of probably fasting on weekends, so we will estimate, listen, so every month, if I used to just fast on the weekends, then they estimate like 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So then I have about what? So khalas, estimate and he makes qadha, and he estimate, put it in a chart, right? And do qadha. Now, right, all the masail put it into women. We're not going through it. The handouts, you can read through the handouts. This whole page over here related to women. Alright. For example, also a person, a traveler is exempted from fasting, right? But if he reaches home, he becomes now a resident before sunset. He's traveling, so he's exempted from fasting. Now he returns home, he's now a resident. Then that person, even though he's not fasting, he must refrain from eating and drinking until sunset. Why? Because him being a traveler, he was exempted, he was given the allowance. Right now he's a resident, he must refrain from eating and drinking until sunset, even though he would have to make qada. Similarly, a person accepts Islam. A person accepts Islam during the day for Ramadan. The moment he accepts Islam, right, he will have to refrain from eating and drinking until what? The break of dawn. Or not the break of dawn, until sunset. Right? He must refrain from eating and drinking until sunset. Similarly, as we mentioned, a menstruating woman, right? She's allowed to eat and drink. She cannot fast, right? But if she becomes clean during the day of Ramadan, during the daytime, anytime before sunset, she must refrain from eating and drinking until sunset.
So the traveler, he decided that he wanted to fast.
If he decides that he wants to fast, khalas, that would what? His fast would be valid, and that would be considered as his fast of Ramadan. Right? It would not be okay. If he were to fast as an optional fast and he still has to make up, no. That would be his fast of Ramadan if he decides to fast.
The traveler, if he prayed the short prayer, if he decided to pray 4 rakah instead of 2
You go on the salah now. Right. If I'm a musafir, what? According to Hanafi madhab, a musafir, he must what? Shorten his salah. Only 4 rakah, he must what? Perform 2 rakah. The other madhab, yes, he has the allowance to perform full 4 rakah or 2 rakah. According to Hanafi madhab, he must shorten his salah. Right? He must perform 2 rakah. Right? If he were to perform 4 rakah on his own, right, then what? The salah would still be valid, right, provided what? After the first 2 rakah he sat, right? After the first 2 rakah he sat, and then afterwards he completed his salah. Why? Understand why? What is the difference? If a person, a normal person, a muqim, a resident, he's performing salat al-dhuhr, for example, a 4 rakah salah, and after the first 2 rakah he did not sit, right? He did not sit after the first 2 rakah, right? But he left on the first sitting. And he continued and completed his salah. His salah valid, yes or no? His salah is valid, right? Because that first sitting is wajib. And he would do sajda sahwa at the end. And that would what? Serve as an atonement, and the salah would be correct. Okay? If a musafir were to do that, right? If a musafir were to do that, perform salatul dhuhr 4 rakah and go sit for the first 2 rakah, then what? His entire 4 rakah become nafil salah. Why? Because for musafir, the first 2 rakah is his fard salah. So if he were to perform what? 4 rakah, then the first 2 would be considered fard, and the second 2 would be considered nafil. Alright? And as we mentioned, if a person is sick, yes, he is exempted from fasting, he can delay the fast. But that person shouldn't think that, well, listen, he would what? He would bear that difficulty in fasting, right? No. If you cannot fast for a valid reason, they are allowed, right? They are allowed to delay that fast until better days, right? So there's no righteousness and piety doesn't demand that a person undergoes what? Difficulty and hardship to fast. No, he's already exempted, right? So he should take the exemption. And we have the famous one here now. The students say they can't fast because of exams. Subhanallah. Right? Probably standard 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because they're not battling yet, right? Probably up to standard 5 too. SCA probably, right? But listen, once a person is battling, then what? Exams is not what? An excuse to refrain from fasting to delay the fast. That is a major sin, right? That is a major sin. And we just need to what? Coach the students, right? Listen, we want the help of Allah Azza wa Jalla. The help of Allah Azza wa Jalla will come in what? Following with His commands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command us to fast, right? We fast, right? So there's no exemption there. Unless, listen, a person what? Fasted, or is fasting and what? Severe hunger and thirst that is unbearable. Not like the headache, right? But severe hunger and thirst that is what? Unbearable. And each person will know himself, right? A person can say, no, that is not unbearable, right? But you see a person what? Like a student come, right? He came a few days ago, seeking permission to go and lie down. He's sick. But he's talking strong and healthy. Right? So I was speaking to him to say, you know what, right? And afterwards, he's not coughing, he's not sneezing, and he's talking strong and healthy. And you want to go and sleep? Right? I said, but if you want, at least stay in the class and put your head on the desk, at least you can still hear the teacher. Okay. Right? So, a genuine reason then that genuinely what? The thirst is unbearable or the hunger is unbearable.
So the Kaza fast, if we have to look at Kaza, it would be out of Ramadan.
It will be out of Ramadan.
We get the same blessing for Ramadan fast.
No. Unless a person has a valid reason. Right? Unless a person is exempted. Right? Understand if they cover, for example, they cover because of traveling, suffer. That is a valid reason. The Sharia gave that allowance. Sickness, the Sharia gave that allowance. A pregnant woman who fears for her life or her child, right? That allowance is given. If a person, okay, intentionally, without any reason, does not fast anymore, the month of Ramadan, one day, I had to go to spend the day. They hear people. So they can't go for Jumu'ah, they can't fast today, right? So he doesn't fast and he has to make up. That is a major sin. Yes, and he still has to make up for it, right? No, come understand, he made intention not to fast.
For Ramadan?
No, for that day he's going to pour a Spain. Alright? He tells him, listen, tomorrow I don't pour a Spain, so I'm not fasting. Right? That is not a valid reason. And he will still have to make up for it. But if you were to make up for that, why that out of Ramadan he would not get the same virtue? Why? Because that person, he wasn't given a concession. No allowance was given to that person to delay that fast. Right, are these things we mentioned before?
Amara want to say something?
So for the sisters that would usually miss a few days during Ramadan, if they're interested in doing the 6 nafil fast after, is it necessary to perform the qada first, or can they perform the nafil?
Right, so this question always comes up, right? Because you have between what? Nafil and wajib, right? So yes, obviously what precedence is given to what? That qada fast which is what? Obligatory, right? Over that which is nafil, but understand, that qada fast which is obligatory upon her, she has what? That is not time restricted. Yes? It's not time, that has what? She can fast what? More than a year. Right? The Shafi'i madhab, according to the Shafi'i madhab, if that person doesn't make up what? For the fast of the previous Ramadan, and the next Ramadan meets that person, and every fast he or she didn't make up for, they will have fidya. As opposed to the Hanafi madhab, no. Right? You do your qada and you have 5 remaining again, but the next Ramadan come up, khalas, you put that after that Ramadan. Right? So the fast of Shawwal is specific, even though it's what? It's not obligatory, but it's what? Nafil. Right? So it's not like, okay, you have $5, either what? I buy a doubles or I buy a Coke. Right? And if I buy a doubles, I can't buy the Coke. And if I buy the Coke, I can't buy the doubles. Right? It's not like that. They could still fast and what? The 6 days are in Shawwal, and what they can still do what? Right? They can still, not still, but they still have to make up for that qada fast, right? Similarly, same with regards to what? A person has qada fast to do, and he has what? Sunnah to perform. So he comes and he asks, listen, it's better for me to perform my 2 rakah sunnah after what? After Maghrib, or should I do qada for Fajr, for example, right? Yes, everybody lies, okay, what is more important than the qada for Fajr is more important. But listen, if a person perform what? 2 rakah sunnah after what? After Maghrib, how long would it take to do what? The qada. So it's not like either or a person, either he do this or he does that. If that is the case, yes, that person will do what is obligatory, right? And do that what is wajib, or that which is nafil. But here, that is not the case. It's not either or, they can still, right? They can still do it. No, that's separate. The kafara will replace the qada. Understand what? If you have a person has what? 30 days, say he was a traveler for the entire month of Ramadan, is a musafir, right? And the last, just the last day, he get the last day, right? He was not musafir the last day, right? And he deliberately broke the fast in such a manner that necessitated kafara. So what he has to do? He has to do what? Cover for what? 29 days when he didn't fast because allowance was given to him. Plus, that day he broke the fast, he has to cover as the next one. Plus 60 days. Kafara. So this 60 days now would not replace, will not replace the how you call it? The 29 or 30 days of any fasting. That's for something else. This kafara is an atonement for that one day. Right? And he still has the other 29 days to do. Alright, so inshallah, if you have any more questions, you can take on as well. Now? Right, so the days he fasts, that will be counted. The days he cannot fast, right, then he will just make up for it afterwards. After Ramadan, he will make up for it. Yes, so just record, understand that what? Record the days, how many days I missed, boy. This thing need to be recorded, right? Like a woman also in her cycle, right? This thing need to be recorded on what days, right? And they normally have an habit, so they will know, right? Right, so all of what we have mentioned, okay, what nullifies the fast, what does nullify the fast. The whole intent is what? That we fast in a way that what? That is pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and we maximize the rewards, right? We fast in a way that is pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jalla, so we can get the maximum rewards. So yes, this is the fiqh part, what nullifies, the two factors that nullifies in the fast. Wusul al-Mufti that Jawfil Badr, the reaching of a fast recognition to the cavity of the body. And we have the second one, Surat in al-Jima' Suratan wa Ma'nan, marital relation. We discussed that, right? So that is not all, right? Remember the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, right? When a person, if he is fasting for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, that person must refrain from what? Sins. That person must refrain from evil. Alright, that person must refrain. When the hadith of the Prophet mentioned, Man lam yada' qawla zur, a person who does not want to leave out lying. فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةً فِي أَنْ يَدَعْ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla has no need for that person to leave out his what? Eating and drinking. Right? So over here, now, yes, hey, my fast not broken, because we study here. Not nobody nullify my fast. But at the end of the day, the fast not nullified, not broken, but listen, when we have no rewards. Alright? Yes, we don't have to do qada all the time. Right? So understand something here. When something is obligatory upon, for example, a person performs salah, right? He gets what? Rewards. But if a person performs salah in such a way, what? It has no rewards, right? He doesn't have to make qada for that salah, no. There's no qada, but that person, what, he gets no rewards for his salah. That is why Nabi Isa mentioned many people, they would what? Fast, and they would stand, and all they get is what? Hunger and tiredness. So there's no qada over there, why? Because none of these things occurred. But at the end of the day, that person is what? Deprived from what? The rewards of fasting. Right? So together with this, that person what? When the hadith mentioned, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned, except what? Fasting. I mean, except fasting, every single action there's a certain amount of reward and whatever. Illa sawm, except fasting, for innahu li, that is for me. That person fasts for my sake. Wa ana ajzi bi, and I would reward that person. So a person fasts for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla, he's going to get rewards. So that person who fasts, but he's still what? Disobedient to Allah. He's fasting, but he's still what? Looking at what? Things that he's not supposed to look at. He's still doing things that he's not supposed to do. Then what? Is the same ruling. Allah Azza wa Jalla would not say, فَإِنَّهُ لِي. It's not for me, Lord. How this person fasting for me, but he disobeyed me? So the same thing, a person lying, then that person, Allah Azza, the Prophet Azza mentioned, Allah Azza wa Jalla has no need for that person to leave his food and drink. Right? The hadith that mentioned Allah Azza wa Jalla has no need for what? His fast. He didn't call it a fast. He didn't even use the word fast or sawm. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He didn't mention Allah Azza wa Jalla is not in need of his fasting. No, He said Allah Azza wa Jalla is not in need of his what? Leaving out eating and drinking, as though that person what? Hey, Allah is not in need of you starving, boy. Alright? So khalas, yes, we perform what? Our fast in a manner that what? It brings what? We get what? Maximum reward. And that is when a person what? He refrains from every single thing that Allah Azza wa Jalla He has made and He prohibited. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla give us the tawfiq to enter the month of Ramadan. And our intention in enter the month of Ramadan, understand that before we enter the month of Ramadan, we have intention. Yes, make intention when we enter the month of Ramadan. Oh Allah, make me from among those who what? Sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban. That person what? Qama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, Man qama Ramadan, that person who fasts in the month of Ramadan with iman and ihtisab, longing for rewards, then what? غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ. All of his sins are forgiven. That person who stands in the month of Ramadan with the intention, what? With iman and with the intention of what? Getting rewards from Allah Azza wa Jalla, all of his sins are forgiven. Right? All of his sins are forgiven. We enter the month of Ramadan, we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He makes us min utaqaihi minan nar, that He makes us from amongst those souls that are emancipated from the fire of Jahannam. And this is our intention, and this is what we do. Right? This is our intention, and this is how we spend our Ramadan. Otherwise, we mentioned this hadith. No, we mentioned at the beginning, but the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, رَغِمَ أَنْفُ رَجُلٍ دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ رَمَضَانَ ثُمَّ انْصَلَخَ وَلَمْ يُغْفَرْ لَهُ. Woe be unto that person who entered the month of Ramadan or found the month of Ramadan, then the month of Ramadan left with all of his blessings and mercy and forgiveness, وَلَمْ يُغْفَرْ لَهُ. And that person, he was not able, his sins, that person was not able to what? His sins were not forgiven. That person wasn't able to leave the month in a state that what his sins are forgiven. Why? Because that person didn't do the actions, didn't do those things that what? That attracted the rahmah and the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla give us the tawfiq. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhanallah.